Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Triggered, which is a 2020 film that is currently on Hulu to the second of this recording. So, for this movie, it's kind of an interesting concept when we actually get to the more important part of why we're all here, which takes 15 minutes to roughly get into that part. Because of course they kind of have to give you like certain backstories of certain characters, which obviously mean nothing to me. I just want to man, get me to the game. Like, I wish that they could have just woken up and have these vests on them, and now they're just going on and playing this game. But like, we need a little bit of backstory, and we need to understand why things are going on the way they are, because there has to be a rational reason for all this. So these these kids had all gone and done this class reunion, and to coincidentally also have them be on the cusp of a classmate of theirs that came to this reunion and had died via a heart attack, supposedly. But we'll end up finding out that this guy had mixed possibly too many drugs, and there may quite possibly be a murderer afoot between any number of these people. And so, will it get revealed who had murdered Caleb? Will no one confess to it, and it'll just be like, who cares? That might be a thing. But the main part of this story is we have Mr. Peterson, who is to seek revenge on quite possibly a number of these classmates because they might have been attached to, of course, Caleb getting killed. And so instead of figuring out who exactly it was, might as well just go and group all of these characters all together and possibly kill them all off at once, or possibly within a group of people, kill off the person who had done it, and maybe leave an innocent to be left alive. Maybe. With that said, we're also having a detective that is to be forced to be out in the forest before the rest of these classmates are, to have a guy named Mr. Miller being the first person of this game who is to then start to attach himself onto the classmates game, because his vest was to go and say the word searching for players, which when Mr. Peterson is to go and find these classmates, that's when the game is to start. And that is when Mr. Peterson's vest is to start to slowly but surely tick away, like we see here, where it seems this game is to all be like the person with the most time. And when you are to kill someone, you end up getting more time accumulated onto your vest. When someone is to be glowing blue, they have the most time. If someone is glowing green, they're kind of in the bubble of being either second to almost dead last place. And then whoever is to actually have red is to be dead last, and they're going to die soon. And now they need to go and desperately go into desperate measures of killing another person to steal their time to live longer. So, a kind of very interesting concept. I really did enjoy this film. It was like an interesting story being played out. I think the only thing that I probably didn't like here is don't quite understand why they had to do this whole movie in the darkness, but I get it because possibly you can see the color schemes a lot better with these people's vests. I don't know. I just also don't think that certain characters, like, it seems like certain characters for the most part were kind of lost in the shuffle of who exactly they were through most of this film. But like there is some defining things to remember people. But it is just kind of simply confusing because they go from one set of clothing to, of course, a completely different set of clothing, and it just kind of gets a little confusing when it's just like, okay, so who are all these people again? Who are all these couples? Like, because I had to kind of group them up and just be like, okay, she's with him, she's with him, she's okay. So now I think we've gotten to figure out who people are, but through the time of which that if I'm to talk about any part of this movie and I get a little confused, that's bound to happen because like there's certain characters where uh you get enough mud and enough people, they all look the same. Um, and I'm not referring to skin tones or anything. No, it's just like you get enough mud on some people and they all like everyone looks the same at some point, especially with like 3 to 4 girls all having black hair. I'm like, two guys having almost the same kind of hairstyle. Like, uh, like that's like when you have horror movies, you always have the drastically different characters, and that's what always makes them stick out. There's a lot of times where you just plop down like 40 people, or let's go into a small number, 10 people, and like seven of them all look the same, and then there's three people that like, hey, there's a blonde haired kid. There's so it gets really confusing where like if someone doesn't like blatantly stick out because anyways, so let's push on. Let's go on to the double five time territory. Let's go into spoilers about this movie. Goofy line delivery in some parts of this film, if I didn't mention it. This movie at some points does feel like it's kind of towing the line of a comedy or a horror because there's a lot of seemingly jokes here, and I don't know if that was purposely done or maybe they were just like, hey man, like we don't even know if anyone's going to see this film, so let's just have fun with it. So going into this film, let's just go into the double five time territory. Let's just go into spoilers so we can call this one a day. Because who knows if anyone's going to go out of their way to see this film. It's on Hulu right now. It's conveniently easy for anyone to see. But with that said, because I thought that this movie is actually good enough for anyone to go and check out. I don't think there's any like thing here where I'm seeing like there might be a problem watching this film. Like to me, like this movie when I saw it, I'm like, this is basically like Battle Royale. If Battle Royale didn't have a classroom and like it's basically Battle Royale, but it's like the Japanese movie Battle Royale, but it's done from like a slightly different approach. And so yeah, plus there's a whole like revenge angle that we didn't see coming in this movie compared to Battle Royale. Well, there is no revenge angle. It's just a guy randomly chose a class and decided to kill them all off. So let's just go not double five. Let's go to otherwise say that it is spoiler time, spoiler time. It's about the time I'm going to spoil this movie. So, this group of gang of kids all go on to, of course, be on a camping trip, and so they're kind of reminiscing about old times, getting back together to see where everyone's lives are at. So we have PJ who is to mention because someone is to bring it up, like, hey, you're in a band, right? And PJ's like, well, yeah, I'm a drummer. And so it seems that PJ is going off at one point on his own to go into his car and listen to some music and just kind of bang it out or whatever. And so it seems that PJ is to be said to just be this like bum or a guy that just is to like man, why should he live longer than anyone else? Like, he's not contributing to society or some goofy, crappy thing like that. But Rain is to be some MIT girl uh, who is to latch herself on to PJ. Um, Kato is seemingly to be this overly confident guy, which we'll start to see throughout this movie. Kind of a really good manipulator, but also it seems that he is to be much more like skilled than a lot of these other people for whatever reason. Don't quite know why. Um, but it seems like he is to have the edge over a lot of these people in this one. Uh, Aaron is to not have much like for her. She's just kind of a middle of the road kind of character. It seems like she's nice, but when really looking at it, when push comes to shove, she would probably kill anybody just like anyone else would. Uh, Amber is to be with Kato, from what we are to believe, or really what we just find out in this movie is that Amber is quite possibly being tempted to mix it up with Ezra. Cece is, of course, dating uh, Ezra, and Cece is going and like separating herself from the pack to go and talk alone with Amber. And Cece is mentioning that Ezra is cheating on her, and so there might be at some point in this movie where Kato is to admit of who is cheating on who. So Shay honestly didn't know anything about her. Don't like, I honestly don't think we have enough time to marinate on this character, let's just say. And so Mr. Peterson, who is to be the villain of this story, is a teacher, and he is going to go and, in the very beginning of this film, take Mr. Miller out to this forest to latch himself onto a tree, and then he heads to go and find these other students that are to be in this forest. Bobby, we find out that the only thing that seems for me that sticks out about this guy is that he's bisexual because he ends up mentioning that. That's the only thing that sticks out to me for this character. And Bobby was to supposedly help Mr. Peterson get all these students to come here because it seems that Bobby was being blackmailed by Mr. Peterson. So, yeah. I think with that said, that's all the dirt that I have on everybody. Um, but Mr. Peterson also is to be Caleb's father and is going to want to know who had killed his son, or just kind of figure it out by process of elimination by putting together this game. So with that said, yeah, so let's go more into the film, and let's go into, because I kind of covered all of the camp stuff. So it seems that there is a couple here who is to mix it up together and eventually sleep in or do some bedroom business into a tent. And so it seems that certain other kind of couples like Ezra and Cece are just like, well, hey, are we gonna kind of? And Cece's like, no. You've already slept with somebody else, so you're not going to be sleeping with me. It seems that Rain and PJ are going to experiment a little with some handcuffs but doesn't really quite happen. And so, but what eventually does happen though is it seems that Mr. Peterson is to see, I believe, Aaron and drag Aaron back to camp and knock her out, or knock her out and then drag her back to camp. And so Mr. Peterson is to supposedly drug everybody with a sleeping gas, and so everyone is to wake up within the next scene with everybody wearing these vests that we see here. And so everyone is to wake up and nobody knows what's really going on, but no one can find where Bobby is. And so they're like, okay, where the heck is Bobby? So nobody knows what's going on with these vests. Some of them don't even understand that they're even counting down at some point. And a lot of people are kind of confused about the color system also. It's like, why is this person having blue? Why does this person have green? Why? What does any of this mean? So, in the early stages of this movie, it seems that both Aaron and or no, wait, let's go with Bobby. So the whole group is to make their way to Bobby, and now uh, Bobby is to have this box cutter on him, and he is to uh, have them be like, or Bobby is to go and tell them, it's like, did Mr. Peterson not tell you the rules of what's going on here? And they're like, no, because when they wake, Mr. Peterson is to basically just apologize for them being involved in this game. And that he, of course, mentions that he's like, yeah, I taught every single one of you. And so then Peterson ends up going and taking a bullet to the head and killing himself. And so now the group is deciding to go and try to find Bobby, which they do. And so Bobby is to have the lowest amount of time on his vest. And so he's like, okay, so now I need to kill somebody so that way I can get more time on my vest. And so, because I guess the group doesn't quite understand that that's the goal of the game is to kill somebody so you get more time. Even when Bobby is to kind of go and try and attack people, still people aren't really quite getting it. It seems that they have to kind of reiterate to make it seem like if the whole Bobby situation didn't help them understand what's going on, now there's to be a thing presented shortly after this where they figure it out. But they unlatch Bobby from his chained area, and so Bobby's like, "Oh, so thank you guys for like trying to unchain me, because at least like not everybody is a horrible person here." And so, but Bobby tries to go and attack people because that's the whole goal of the game. And so Bobby's time runs out, and so Bobby, before he dies, mentions that he's bisexual, and Mr. Peterson was to find out about it and blackmail him this with this information as well as some pictures. And so now Bobby had to bring everyone here to do this game, and so now he had figured out what exactly this game was. So now Bobby is to explode because his vest had ran out of time and he couldn't kill somebody in that time. And they're like, oh my god, like he just exploded, like he just died. And so we go on, and so now we have both Eren and Ezra who are to go on and find Mr. Miller, and they try to untie him from where he's being held. And so Mr. Miller is to tell Eren and Ezra that supposedly Mr. Peterson had found out that his son Caleb was to have continuously gotten somebody to give him speed throughout the whole night of this get together that they had. So somebody in this area is a murderer, and no one is to be for sure who exactly it is. So it's like, okay, so there's like a murder mystery on top of this death game that is to be going on here. So this is kind of like game of death on in all actuality. But people might have more of an allotted time or know exactly how long they're going to live. So Ezra is to go and shoot Mr. Miller because he's almost going to die anyways, because his time is going to run out. And so Ezra goes and shoots Mr. Miller, but the time accumulates onto Eren's vest because she was right there next to Mr. Miller. And so Eren had taken that time. And so they end up figuring out whoever is closest to the person that dies gets that time. And so there's some people that I guess are to die anyways, and someone is to steal that time away. And so it just kind of becomes a very interesting game of if someone's to die and someone's close by, they can just steal the time away from a person who actually did kill so and so person. So we now have. Oh no, wait. Um, I'm wrong about that. I'm definitely wrong. It wasn't. It wasn't Eren who was with Ezra. It was Shay. So Shay had the most time, and yeah, that's how it accumulates. Okay, I figured this out. So, because what happens is everybody is starting to get paranoid, and everybody is to think that they have to get up in arms and start killing one another because they start figuring out, especially when PJ's time is starting to dwindle down, and he is to now grasp onto Ray and say like, "Hey, like what can I do to get my vest glowing green again?" And Rain's like, I don't know what's going on." And so Shay just comes out of the shadows, and she's like, "Oh, hi, Mark," like the room, and PJ got scared of Shay weirdly, saying, "Oh, hi guys." And so he goes and freaking clocks her, I guess, supposedly with his flashlight, he says. Like, it seems like the line that he says is that he ended up clocking her with this flashlight, and Shay's head busts open, and so Shay dies, and so Shay had the most time, and now PJ has the most time, and so Eren is just effing off, just kind of doing whatever. But we'll get to that. So, so now remember that PJ is to have the most time, and so now both Rain and PJ are trying to run away from the rest of the group to hide out because they're like, hey, like PJ, you're gonna have the most time, so like you basically just planted a target upon your back. So both PJ and Rain go off into their tent to try and hide out. And so we start to see certain characters go and try to take one another out. And so I think what ends up playing out is that Cece is to start dwindling down time, and so Cece is start to see certain number of people. I think she ends up seeing Amber, and she sees Kato, and so Cece runs over there to try and quickly just knife up Amber because Cece is to find this knife and she's just kind of like swinging it. I'm like, oh my god, this girl is just instantly turned into Rambo or something. So Cece goes and stabs Amber in the stomach because she technically has to because her time is dwindling down. And so Amber is like, Cece, what are you doing? Like, we're friends. And so Kato is to tell Cece, it's like, well, hey, you know how your boyfriend was cheating on you? Well, Amber was cheating on uh, me with Ezra. Yeah, like they have like private conversations with one another, and they have like uh, wang pics and all kinds of stuff. And so what happens is like Cece is now so angry that that Kato is saying all this, and so Amber ends up going and taking this knife out of her stomach and slicing Cece in the throat. And so Cece, of course, is to die. And so Amber is now trying to get Kato back onto her side to just say, hey, like, you and me, we're a couple. Like, how about we team up and kill everyone together? Because all that matters is we should just kill everybody and not have it just be that we're just waiting for our time to tick down. Like, let's go and kill everyone, get the most time, so that way both of us can survive the longest, and then we'll see how this all plays out after that. So Kato goes off to find Ezra, and so Ezra is to assume that Kato was the one to have overdosed Caleb and kill him, and so now Ezra is going to confront Kato, saying that uh, Kato was the one to have killed uh, Caleb. So we have a pretty good fight between Ezra and Kato. Like at first, it seems that Ezra has the upper hand. Ezra is just freaking punching the crap out of Kato. Then it seems that there is this drastic turn where Kato starts getting the upper hand, where it seems like he gets some pretty good looks in with this kind of crowbar-ish like thing. And so what ends up happening is that uh, Kato ends up going and stabbing into Ezra with this weapon of sorts, and he ends up dying. And so now we've kind of dwindled down our numbers here. So it seems that after Ezra is to be dead, and Kato is to make fun of Ezra for having uh, a Johnson with no manscaping. Evidently, I guess he didn't trim the hedges, so to speak. After Kato is to kill Ezra, he is to immediately head back to Amber and say it's like, okay, well, now that you've technically cheated on me, like, I'm going to go after you and I'm going to go and kill you and, like, even this up. Because so that way I wipe out anybody who is to, like, go off and try to kill me. So, because eventually Amber will try to kill him. So, Kato goes off and kills Amber, and is to basically say it's like, well, hey, yeah, like what we did was fun, but like I'm gonna live. So now, who is to be left out of this group is to really just be Kato, Rain, Aaron, PJ, and I think that's it. Yeah, because everyone else is dead at this point. So now uh, we have Rain and PJ getting back into the fight because they were looking through all their supplies, and Rain is to find a wedding ring that PJ was to keep hidden, but Rain puts it back into the the backpack and just tosses the backpack to PJ to look through, so that way she doesn't seem to know about the ring. And PJ goes and grabs the ring and puts it into his pants. So PJ is to go and have the highest time, but then I guess since Kato is really going on a rampage and killing a bunch of people, it seems that eventually PJ is to start to dwindle down on his time. And so PJ is to tell Rain uh, that he is to want to propose to her now because this is the probably the only time that they're going to get. And Rain is like, no, don't propose to me now. Like, let's wait till later. And it's like, dude, you're not going to get it later. So now PJ is to go off and confront Kato, and that's a mistake. Because PJ is to team up, or so Kato is to team up with Aaron, and so Rain and PJ are to be only one left. So Kato teams up with Aaron because like they're basically the only one left, and Kato's like, well, hey, like we're the only ones that don't have another person with us, so how about we just kind of team up temporarily and just kind of go and kill off both Rain and PJ because they're an actual couple. And so Aaron kind of like she's interested but not really because she wants to just kind of avoid killing anyone. So but what happens anyways is that Kato is to go off and the next person is to get killed, who Kato is to go and grab or have a gun on him, and he ends up shooting PJ in the face and killing him. And because PJ is to have a gun, but also Kato is to have a gun, and Kato is going to shoot PJ because PJ probably doesn't want to kill anybody. So PJ is now dead, and so Kato makes his way to find Rain, and so now Kato goes and takes a blade and shoves it in Rain's eye, killing her off. But before Rain is to die, Rain confesses to Aaron that she was the one that drugged Caleb, and she was the one that killed Caleb because supposedly Rain was bitter about Caleb being like the top of his class, and Rain desperately needed a scholarship over Caleb, and so Rain was just trying to do anything that she could to beat out Caleb, and the only way she could do that is to kill Caleb. And so it seems that Rain had to go on and tell her father, and so her father knew about this, and so like I guess her father tried to hide the fact that Rain was the person who did this, and try to like smoke screen and I guess make this case go cold, but Mr. Peterson wasn't going to let it go. So so Kato goes and takes a of course blade and shoves it into Rain's eye, killing her off. And so now Kato is to basically say that he's the John Wick of killing right now, that he has killed so many people compared to everyone else who has not killed a soul. Like he has had to kill everybody. And so now it's a whole thing between both Eren and Kato. And because Kato is the one that's like, we have to kill more people to get more time. So Eren is to just be like, well, okay, like, I don't have to kill you. I just need to outlive you. Because Kato is to already have a red vest, and of course, Eren is to have a blue vest because I think she has the most time. So Eren goes and shoots, because she has a gun, Kato in the kneecaps, and so he drops. And so Eren is to just, as quickly as possible, just kind of get further and further away from Kato. And so Kato is just be like, well, okay, I guess I'm going to die here, but I want to go out my own way. And so Kato goes on to grab this knife from Rain's eye to go and stab his own self, but it seems that he is to chicken out and he just can't do it. And then the time ticks away, and his, of course, vest explodes and he dies. So Rain is to be left to be the sole survivor of all this. And so she is, of course, going on to like kind of make her way past this camp, because I guess no one actually drove there. So Eren goes and finds some random trucker, and she's to tell this guy what had happened. And so this guy's like, dude, I'm not gonna pick you up. Like, so this guy continues to drive on, and so Eren is to now have to go and find the person who's going to believe her story and help her. And good luck with that, as she is to wander off into the forest and hope for the best. So, with that said, I think that does wrap up this movie, and that does finish up this story. Because that's great, because I just needed a really short one, because good grief, I've been doing a lot of like hour and a half, 2 hour kind of stretches of videos lately, and I'm just like, man, wouldn't it be nice if I could just get a really short video out of this? It'd be nice. It's usually like roughly 30-40 minutes are usually my shorter ones, so I'm happy that I could achieve that for this film. Anything else? I hope that I've covered most of this movie. There might be something that I might have missed or forgot about in this film. Let me know in the comments below how you felt about this movie, if you watched this all the way through. Not saying what I reviewed, just saying like how you felt about this movie. If you liked it, if you hated it, if you were just like, you know what, there is like, because me, like, I thought it was a good enough concept. To me, I just saw like Game of Death recently, and so when I went into this movie, I'm like, this seems like Battle Royale and Game of Death and a lot of the death games that I've kind of seen lately. So I just enjoyed it. I liked it. And so it had good enough concept of it either kill or die. So kind of got interesting. So with that said, I think I'm gonna get out of here. I think I've covered this movie good enough. So I'm gonna get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.